The big room of the Galactic Council got very quiet. Elder Zixtar, a crystal-like alien, stood in the center. Aliens from 300 different planets watched with their eyes, tentacles, and other strange body parts. "Today I bring important news," Zixtar said, his voice changing into words everyone could understand. "Samuel Wright, the last human alive, has died on our medical planet near Proxima Centauri. The human species is now gone forever." The room filled with different reactions. Some aliens looked happy. Others seemed sad. Many just nodded their heads. Ambassador Krell, who looked like a giant wasp, stepped forward. His wings made a buzzing sound as he moved. "Are we sure they're all gone?" Krell asked. "Humans always found ways to survive when we thought they couldn't." "We are certain," Zixtar answered. "Our machines have checked every planet for 3 years. We found no humans anywhere. We saved their DNA in our library like we do for all extinct species." The aliens talked among themselves. Humans had only been in space for a short time, but they had changed everything. They fought wars they couldn't win. They made friends with dangerous enemies. They built things no one thought possible. And now they were gone. Far away from this meeting, hiding in dark space where no maps showed, a small ship floated near a wandering planet with no sun. Inside the ship, Commander Nell Porter watched the news about humans being extinct. Her short brown hair looked almost black in the dim blue light from the screen. "So they think we're all dead," she said quietly. A small smile formed on her lips. "Perfect." Lieutenant Alan Gray worked on the ship's controls nearby. He was tall, with strong hands that moved quickly over the buttons and screens. "Our hiding technology is working great," he said. "To their scanners, we just look like a broken satellite or space junk." Nell stood up and walked to the window. Outside was the dark planet they now called Haven. No one would look for life here. The planet had no sun. It just wandered through space alone. But deep under its surface was humanity's biggest secret. "How is the colony?" she asked. Alan checked a different screen. All 5,000 sleep pods still working perfectly. Everyone's vital signs are normal. Hidden under the planet's rocky surface, 5,000 humans slept in special chambers. Men, women, and children frozen in time. Scientists, doctors, soldiers, farmers, teachers, all waiting for the day they could wake up and start again. Nell remembered the day they escaped Earth. The sky burning orange and red as the alien ships attacked. The screams on the emergency channels. The president's last message: survive, hide, remember. Now they were the only humans left, the last survivors of Earth. "We should check the underground base again," Nell said. "I want to make sure the power systems are stable." They took a small shuttle down to the planet's surface. The landing was rough. Strong winds blew across the dark, frozen landscape. They wore heavy suits to protect them from the deadly cold outside. Walking through an airlock door built into the side of a mountain, they entered a long tunnel that went deep underground. After passing through 3 security checkpoints, they reached the main control room. The huge underground cave was filled with machines humming quietly. In the center was a glowing blue column, the power core that kept everything running. Around it, in circular patterns, were thousands of sleep pods. Each one held a human in perfect frozen sleep. Alan checked the main computer. Power is at 97%. Food production systems ready. Air recyclers working normally. He looked at Nell. "When do we wake them?" "Not for 20 years, Nell said, touching one of the sleep pods. Inside was a small girl, maybe 6 years old, her face peaceful, unaware that her world was gone. "We need to be absolutely sure the aliens have forgotten about us. They need to think of humans as just another extinct species from the history books." Nell walked to a special room at the back of the cave. Inside was a locked box. She pressed her hand against it, and it opened to show a glowing blue crystal. "The seed bank," she said. "Every plant from Earth. Every animal DNA sample we could save. The complete human genetic library." Alan stood next to her. "And the plans?" "All here," she said, pointing to a row of data storage devices. How to build cities, how to make spaceships, how to defend ourselves next time. They returned to the control room. On the main screen, they watched the Galactic Council meeting continue. The aliens were already talking about other matters. Humanity's extinction, just another small piece of news in their busy day. They think we're extinct, Nell said, her voice stronger now. They think the story of humanity is over. She looked at the thousands of sleeping humans around her. But this isn't our end, she said. This is just our new beginning. The last humans weren't dead. They were just waiting. 20 years passed. The day to wake the sleeping humans finally came. Commander Nell Porter stood in front of the first sleep pod as it started to make a low humming sound. Her hair had turned gray now, and lines marked her face. "Is everything ready?" she asked. Lieutenant Alan Gray nodded. He had a long beard now with streaks of gray. "All systems working perfectly. The person inside is healthy. We can wake her up." The clear cover of the pod slid open with a soft hiss. Inside was Dr. Karen Reeves, once Earth's best scientist who studied alien life. Her eyes moved under her eyelids, then slowly opened. She looked confused, then scared. Then she recognized Nell's face. "Did we make it?" Karen asked in a scratchy voice. She hadn't spoken in 20 years. "Yes," Nell said, smiling as she helped Karen sit up. "We made it. Welcome to Haven." Over the next few weeks, they woke up more people, but not all at once. First, they woke the engineers who could help build homes in the caves. Then they woke the doctors who could care for everyone. Next came the farmers who could grow food in special indoor gardens with artificial light. Paul Martinez was one of the best builders. Before Earth was destroyed, he had designed special homes on other planets. Now he worked with teams to turn the big caves under the planet's surface into places where people could live. "We're building our world inside out," he told the newly awakened people as he showed them his plans. "Instead of living on top of the planet looking up at stars, we'll live inside the planet looking at each other." The cave system was huge. The main cave was so big you couldn't see the other side. They built houses along the walls and farms in the center where special lights helped plants grow. They made parks with trees and grass. They built a hospital, a school, and a meeting hall. The children were the last to wake up. There were 400 of them who had been 10 years old or younger when Earth was destroyed. One of them was Zoe Daniels, who had been only 6 years old when she went into the sleep pod. Now she was 7 years old again, even though 20 years had passed. One evening, Zoe stood with Nell in the main cave that now looked like a small town. "Where are the stars?" Zoe asked, looking up at the rock ceiling far above them. Nell put her hand on Zoe's shoulder. "We can't see them, but we carry them inside us. Every human is like a star now, Zoe. A light that the rest of the galaxy thinks has gone out." Jack Winters walked up to them. He was in charge of security now because Alan had died from a sickness 2 years ago. "The space probes have come back," he said quietly to Nell. "We need to talk." That night, Nell, Jack, Karen, and the other leaders met in a small room. Jack showed them pictures from the space probes they had sent out to see what was happening in the galaxy. "The alien council ships are destroying everything that humans ever built," Jack said. "Space stations, satellites, old ships, anything that shows humans were ever there. They're erasing us," said Karen with a grim face. "They don't just accept that we're gone. They want to make sure no one remembers us." "What are they so afraid of?" asked Rita Nelson, who was in charge of all the machines that kept their underground home running. Nell stood up and looked at the pictures again. "They're afraid of what they've always feared about humans, our potential to become more than we are." 6 months after waking up, the people of Haven were building a real community. They had schools for the children. They had farms growing food. They had a hospital, houses, and clean water. It wasn't Earth, but it was home. In the small school, Zoe sat with other children as they learned about Earth. Their teacher showed them pictures of blue oceans, green forests, and white clouds. "Will we ever go back?" one boy asked. "Earth is gone," the teacher said gently. "But someday we might find a new planet to live on. One where we can see the sky again." At night, Nell often walked through the tunnels to a special cave. Inside was a small garden with plants from Earth, the last roses, the last oak trees, the last wheat. Next to it was a room with thousands of seeds and animal DNA samples saved from Earth. "We're more than survivors now," she told Jack one day, as they watched children playing in one of the parks. "We're becoming a new colony, a new start for humans." Jack nodded but looked worried. "How long can we stay hidden? The galaxy is big, but not that big. Someday someone will find us." "Then we need to be ready," Nell said. "We need to be stronger than we were before." In another part of the cave system, Dr. Karen Reeves worked in her lab. She studied the health of everyone who had woken up from the long sleep. Most were fine, but she noticed something strange in the blood tests of the children. "Their cells are changing," she told Nell. "Nothing dangerous, but they're adapting to living underground faster than adults." "Is it bad?" Nell asked. "No," Karen said, looking at the test results again. "It's just interesting. Humans have always been good at adapting, but this is happening faster than normal. The people of Haven didn't know it yet, but they were already starting to change. The darkness, the isolation, the new environment, everything was pushing them to evolve. They weren't just the last humans anymore. They were becoming the first of something new." 10 years passed inside the underground world of Haven. What started as a desperate place to hide had become a home. But something strange was happening to the humans who lived there. In her lab deep in the lowest cave, Dr. Karen Reeves looked at test results on her screen. She had been studying the changes in the people of Haven, especially the children. She asked the colony leaders to meet. "They're changing faster than we thought possible," Karen said, pointing to pictures of DNA on the big screen. The other leaders looked closely at the swirling patterns. "What kind of changes?" asked Paul Martinez, who was now the elected leader of Haven. Karen touched the screen to zoom in. "The children who were born here can see better in the dark than we can. Their lungs work better in our air. Their bones are stronger even though we have less gravity here." She paused, then showed them brain scans. "But the biggest change is in their brains. The children are developing ways to connect with each other's minds. They're becoming telepathic. They can share thoughts without speaking." The room got very quiet. Jack Winters frowned at the screen. "Is this dangerous? Are they still human?" Zoe Daniels, now 27 years old and in charge of the schools, smiled. "That's what humans have always done, isn't it? We change, we adapt, we survive." "The Alien Council was afraid of what we might become," Jack said, still looking worried. "Maybe they had reason to be afraid." "No," Nell said firmly. Her hair was all white now, but her eyes were still sharp and clear. "They weren't afraid of what we might become. They were afraid of their own limits. They couldn't imagine a galaxy where things changed." Outside the meeting room, life in Haven continued. More than 1,000 children had been born in the underground colony. They played in parks where glowing plants provided light and special insects helped plants grow. The colony now had 6,000 people. The new children were different. They could see in almost total darkness. They could feel each other's feelings across the colony. They spoke to each other in their minds. One of these children was Ben Porter, Nell's grandson. He was 12 years old and could already talk to his friends with his mind from anywhere in the colony. When he closed his eyes, he could feel the thoughts of thousands of people, like a gentle sound always in the background of his mind. After the meeting, Zoe found Ben sitting alone in one of the gardens where they grew food. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, though she knew he could share his thoughts directly if he wanted to. "I can feel something," he said with his eyes still closed. "Something out there." He pointed up toward the rock ceiling far above them. Zoe sat next to him, suddenly, worried. "What do you mean? There's nothing up there except empty space." Ben shook his head. "It's not empty. I can feel minds, different from ours. Many of them." That night, Zoe told the colony leaders what Ben had said. It wasn't just Ben. Other children with strong telepathic abilities had reported the same thing. Something or someone was coming close to Haven. How far away? Jack asked, his face serious. Ben says they're still far, Zoe replied. But getting closer. Nell looked at Dr. Karen. How is this possible? How can they sense things so far away? Karen shook her head in wonder. Their brains have changed more than we realized. The neural connections are completely different from ours. Are they still human? Jack asked again. Karen thought for a moment. Yes and no. They're what humans become when they live underground on a wandering planet for a generation. They're still us, just evolved. The next day, the colony leaders called a meeting for everyone. They met in the big central cave where thousands of people gathered. Nell stood on a platform to address them. Some of our children have sensed something approaching our world, she said. Her voice was old but strong. We don't know yet if it's a threat, but we need to prepare. People looked afraid. They had been safe for 30 years. Had the Alien Council found them at last? We have 3 choices, Nell continued. We can hide, deeper. We can run to our backup location. Or we can stand and face whatever is coming. Jack stepped forward. The security team has been preparing for this day. We have weapons and defenses. We can fight if we need to. Paul spoke next. The second colony site is ready. We can move half our people there if needed. Then young Ben walked up to the platform. The crowd got quiet. Everyone knew about the special abilities of the children born on Haven. They're not coming to attack, Ben said, his voice clear and confident for a child. They're coming to explore. They don't know we're here yet, but they will find us. How can you know this? Someone called from the crowd. Ben closed his eyes. I can feel their thoughts. They're curious. They're searching, but they're not angry or afraid. Yet. Nell put her hand on Ben's shoulder. Then we have time to decide what to do. We can prepare for all possibilities. Over the next month, Haven became busy with preparations. The security team set up early warning systems. The engineers checked the backup power systems. The teachers prepared the children for what might happen, but the children of Haven were not afraid. They gathered in the gardens, sitting in circles, their eyes closed, reaching out with their minds to touch the approaching aliens. What are they like? Zoe asked Ben one day. Different, he said. Their minds don't work like ours. They think in patterns and colors. Some think very fast, some very slow, but they're alive like us. They want to understand things like us. Can they feel you touching their minds? Zoe asked. Ben smiled. Not yet. But soon they will, and they'll be very surprised. The day came when the colony's sensors detected a ship entering orbit around their planet. Alarms sounded throughout the caves. People hurried to their assigned safety areas. In the control room, Nell, Jack, Karen, Paul, and Zoe watched the screen showing the alien ship. It's a Council exploratory vessel, Jack said, looking at the data. Smaller than a warship, but well armed. They'll scan the surface, Paul said. Will they detect us down here? Our shields should block most scans, Jack replied. But if they land and bring ground sensors, Nell looked at Zoe. Where's Ben? With the other telepathic children, Zoe said. They're doing something. In a quiet room, Ben sat with 20 other children. Their eyes were closed, their hands joined. Together they reached out with their minds, touching the alien consciousnesses above. They know something is here, Ben whispered. They can feel us now. The first contact between the evolved humans of Haven and the Galactic Council was about to begin. But it wouldn't happen with weapons or words. It would happen with thoughts. The alien ship named Arbitration entered orbit around Haven. Inside the ship, aliens of different kinds worked at control panels. Most looked like giant wasps with 4 wings and compound eyes. A few had blue skin and 3 arms. One was made of crystal that glowed from inside. Energy readings detected under the surface, reported one of the wasp-like aliens. Something is down there. Ambassador Krell, now a high-ranking council officer, clicked his mandibles together nervously. How did we miss this? This area was supposed to be empty. This planet moves in a strange path, the science officer explained. It has no sun. It just wanders through space. It must have drifted through our sensor network without being noticed. It seems to have been here for about 30 Earth years. Krell's compound eyes narrowed. Prepare a landing team, I want to know what's down there. Inside Haven, alarm sirens rang for the first time in 30 years. Jack Winters organized the security teams quickly. Everyone who is not essential personnel, please go to the lower levels, he announced over the colony's speakers. This is not a drill. In the control room, Nell Porter, now 82 years old and with a wrinkled face but clear eyes, met with the other leaders. We knew this day might come, she said calmly. Do we run, or do we stand our ground? Zoe looked at the screens showing the alien ship. Ben and the other children say there are 17 beings on that ship. Mostly Vespids, a few Arcturans, and one Elder. Paul shook his head in amazement. They can tell what kinds of aliens are up there just by sensing their minds? Yes, Karen confirmed. The third generation has abilities far beyond what we expected. That doesn't answer the question, Jack said urgently. Do we evacuate to our backup location or do we meet them? Everyone looked at Nell. She closed her eyes for a moment, thinking. When she opened them, she looked determined. Ben, she called softly. Her grandson stepped forward from the corner of the room where he had been waiting quietly. At 22, he had become the leader of Haven's telepaths. What do you sense from them? Not just who they are, but what they want, Nell asked. Ben placed his hands flat on the table. The other leaders felt a gentle pressure in their minds as he shared what he was sensing. They're curious, they're cautious, they're determined, he said. But they're not hostile. Not yet. They don't know what we are. Nell nodded slowly. Then perhaps it's time they found out. Hours later, as the alien landing party approached the coordinates where they had detected energy, they were surprised to find a single person waiting for them on the cold, dark surface. It was an old human woman wearing an environment suit. She stood calmly next to what looked like a door built into the rock. Ambassador Krell approached carefully, with security, drones floating around him. Impossible, he buzzed. Your kind is extinct. Nell Porter smiled, the wrinkles around her eyes deepening. Reports of our extinction were not exactly true. This violates Council rules, Krell warned. After the Earth Rebellion, all human survivors were ordered to report to the Council. We chose a different path, Nell replied. And by doing so, we have become something new. She gestured to the door in the rock. Would you like to see? What the alien representatives found below the surface was not what they expected. Instead of a small group of survivors barely staying alive, they found a thriving civilization. Instead of primitive humans hiding from the galaxy, they found evolved beings who had used their isolation to advance. In the main community hall, Ben stood before the aliens, with 100 other telepaths beside him. Without speaking aloud, he projected his thoughts directly into the minds of the visitors. We are no longer simply human, his mental voice said clearly. We are a new type of human adapted for a new era. We don't want revenge for Earth. We want recognition. The Elder, a crystal being similar to those who had declared humans extinct 30 years ago, vibrated with distress at this unexpected mental contact. The Council will never accept this, it communicated. Your kind was deemed too dangerous to exist independently. Nell stepped forward, leaning on Zoe's arm for support. The Council can either accept us and establish peaceful relations, or they can try again to destroy us. But I think they'll find the second option much harder this time. As if to prove her point, the security drones that came with the alien delegation suddenly shut down, disabled by the combined mental effort of the telepaths. We don't want conflict, Ben assured them as several of the aliens backed away in alarm. We want to join the galactic community, but as equals, not as subjects. The humans you feared are gone. We have evolved into something new. Ambassador Krell's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed this information. After a long moment, he turned to Nell. The last human may not have died as we thought, he admitted. But it seems the last true human may be standing before me now. Your descendants are something else entirely. Nell smiled. That, Ambassador, has always been humanity's gift, and perhaps what you feared most. We never stay the same. We always become what we need to be. The council delegation returned to their ship to report their amazing discovery. As they left, Nell stood with her family and watched the ship rise from Haven's surface. She knew the path ahead would not be easy. The galaxy would fear them, study them, perhaps even try to destroy them again. What happens now? Zoe asked, standing next to Nell. Now we negotiate, Nell said. The galaxy has changed in 30 years. We have changed too. It's time to find our place in it again. Back on the council ship, Ambassador Krell prepared his report. The beings on planet RP-2781 appear to be evolved humans with telepathic abilities, he dictated. They show no hostility, but possess significant defensive capabilities. Your recommendation? Asked the ship's captain. Krell hesitated. Forced extinction would be problematic. I recommend establishing diplomatic relations and continued observation. 6 months later, a formal treaty was signed. The evolved humans of Haven would be recognized as a new species with rights to their planet and limited travel within nearby systems. In return, they agreed not to use their telepathic abilities against other species without permission. Ben Porter became Haven's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. As he stood in the Great Council chamber where 30 years ago, humans had been declared extinct, he could feel the fear and curiosity in the minds around him. We come in peace, he said, both aloud and mentally. We seek only to add our voice to the great conversation of galactic civilization. Many species remained suspicious. Some demanded more restrictions, but enough were curious about these new beings that the treaty held. On the day the treaty was signed, Nell Porter died peacefully in her sleep. She was the last of the original humans who had escaped Earth. At her memorial service, Zoe spoke to the gathered crowd. Nell always said that humanity's greatest strength was not our technology or our determination, but our ability to change, to adapt, to become something new when we needed to. She looked at the children playing nearby, their minds linked in ways no original human could have imagined. The last human has died, Zoe said. But humanity lives on, reborn as something greater, the end.